What's up, guys? We're gonna 𝗗𝗢𝗣𝗘. Today I'm gonna be showing you guys a new melody method. If you do end up enjoying the video, make sure you do hit that sub button and turn post notifications on because it does help a lot. With that being said, let's go ahead and hop into it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the method. So keep in mind throughout this entire process, not sure how long it's going to be, that this whole purpose of this method is to speed up your trial and error. Okay, so what that is say you have like some notes here and you're trying to figure out, okay, what note do I want to use, right? This is going to incredibly speed up this melody making part. Okay, so that is the purpose of this. Okay, all right, so if you're a beginner, real quick, this is the major. Okay, and this is the minor scale. And scales pretty much lock you into making your melodies or chords sound good, or they give you a type of sound, right? All right. Now this isn't really relevant, but we'll come back to this later. But why I want to show this is because if you go up 3, right? So you transpose up 3 from C in the major, 1, 2, 3. What I want to show you is that the major and minor, they have the same notes. They share the exact same notes. Okay. Now that is important to understand, right? So we'll just skim past that. We'll come back to that later. So for the method, there are 2 things I want to show you, and let's zoom in. So this pattern, right? So you have a half step here. Now it's called a half step because there's no space. It's just right next to each other. Now I wish the terms were a little different for the visual part of making music. I don't know if they would call it like a couple note because they're together. It makes a little bit more sense. And then you have what I would like to call it is like a singles notes or something like that. But this is a whole step, right? Because there's a note in between, right? So you have your half steps, wholes, whatever. Okay. So this is literally it. Okay. This is music. These notes are literally music. Now I'm going to give you some rules to help you never mess up when making your music. Okay. So when we're talking about these over here, all right, there are some rules. Almost never in the major and minor. Okay. Now there are examples of other scales where this doesn't work, but we're talking about major and minor. You will never have a note move up like this. When you're making a melody, it'll never look like this, right? Both ways, right? So it will never look this way. So let's grab a color and lock these positions, because we know if we see these 2 notes next to each other, there is no way ever, if we're using a minor and major, that a note will move this way, right? So we have to jump this note and move outside of it. Okay, if you see these 2 notes. Now moving on to these whole steps here. Okay, so these notes that are spread out. With this, you will almost never see in the major and minor, okay, something move this way and move this way. It will almost never do that. You have to choose, right? So if you see this, you have to say, okay, I want to go this way or I want to go that way. Okay. Now we don't really lock it. It just depends where you go. So if you go up, you have to lock it this way. Now, if you choose to put your half step here, you have to lock it that way. Okay. Now, another thing I want to show is that you can also just keep going up like this if you want to. All right. And that's pretty much all you have to remember. So if I just pull these out, just remember you have this, okay, and this. All right. And it goes both ways. All right. Let me see this like that. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Right. So it goes both ways. Let's color it. Now, I know it's kind of a little confusing. It's a little weird right now the way this looks, but pretty much this is music right here. This is all the codes and stuff you'll need to make music in the major and minor. Okay. And then you do have your 5th, which also would work. Well, you just skip 6 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in place. Okay. You have your 5th. But that's more for if you want to make melodies later, which we'll explain. Okay. Now I just want to make sure we're all set here. Okay. So the reason for this is because I want to change this color. I think it's a little weird looking. Now, how this all comes full circle is if you want to make a melody. Okay, let's make it a different color. Let's make it blue. let's say you have something like this and you want to make a melody, and let's do our little fifths just for example. 1 2 3 4 5 6 and then 7, and we can't play it, but you get what I mean. So if you have notes here, remember our rules, right? There's a space between these notes right here. We can't put a note here, so you know that you can do this, right? And remember this, right? So remember this code, right? Because what this is just this. Okay. Now remember, we can't do this if we're using minor and major, right? We can't. This is not possible. We can't do this. Remember our rules. So you know you have to skip a step here, and you know over here you have to skip a step, right? And then this is how you can kind of get some melodies here. I'm not sure. Right, and that is how you can use this. So this is kind of the basic, and I know this took a long time to explain, but I want to make sure that, well, hopefully that someone who's just beginning making music will understand this, because I'm sure if you know music theory, you probably, this is easy to understand. So what we're gonna do now is actually make a melody using this, okay? Just because I want to walk through it with you on actually like a real example of a melody. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, before we get started with our melody, there's a quick thing I want to go over because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. So with this, the way I represented this here, I don't want people to think that this all works together, like this is one pattern, right? These are just different versions of our little whole step thing here, okay? So I probably should have just spread it out so you can kind of know that these are just separate. So just remember that if you, right, you have this basic pattern, if you move your note here, you'll have to lock this down here because you can't have notes that look like this, right? If you're using major and minor, right? And then this is just a different version of this here. So we make this green and then we lock the note up here. So we know that the next note we have to skip is here. And these notes here, they're just opposites. So if you skip a whole note right here, right, and you move up here, you can do that also backwards. Okay, as you can see, if we move this over, it works both ways. Okay, so these are just different versions of this in the middle. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So let's go ahead and make our melody. All right, now real quick, I know I said we were gonna make the melody, but I want to explain this for the people that don't know. So I'm going to show you the octave method. So pretty much if you go from C to pretty much right before C, okay, you'll end up with 12 notes. Okay, now there are only 12 notes you can use to make music in a given octave. But the thing is, each octave is the exact same notes. It's just a higher version, like a higher shade of that note, right? But they're the same exact notes. So with that being said, if you make a melody in down here, it'll work up here, okay? And then you can start to use these same notes. So if you want to use this G, you can move it up, okay? Just a quick example. All right, so let's go ahead and make our melody for real. All right, so finally we can make our melody using this method. So there's one other thing I want to mention just briefly, and that is the fifths. So fifths, you can place a note literally anywhere, and you could just skip 6 spaces. So this shouldn't be a problem if you're making music in a DAW. You could just count them, copy these up, and then place your note. Now, the reason I like doing it this way is because you can see the notes that you'll be able to use. Now, typically, if you just want to make a chord, the notes in between, so you would kind of lock these notes. Okay, and then the notes in between, you can just drag over. You have access to a lot of chords. Now you could use these obviously to implement in, but this is just like the basic stuff. Okay, so just remember that is 6 spaces, okay, to get your fifth. Okay, so let's go ahead and we can just throw something down here. Let's do 2 notes like that, and we're just gonna spread them out. Okay, so we're just making a melody, and what we're gonna do here is we're gonna just utilize our fifth since we just talked about it. So we're gonna go up from here 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then 1 more to place our notes. Okay, and this is to kind of make our melody. So we're gonna pull these down for some range, and then here what I want to do is actually let's do a 1/3. Shift D to lock them, and then pretty much from here, let's actually drag this in. Now remember our rules, right? Remember our rules. This is where it gets easy. Remember our rules and everything that goes after it. so now we know we have 2 notes here, right? We can only do this. This is the only place we can go, right? You can of course do extra, right? So let's go from here, skip this, right? And you can trial and error, right? And you can go this way, or you can skip another one if you want to. Okay, and I kind of like that one a little bit better. And if you look, this is actually a part of this right here. Okay, you can see how it all comes full circle. And honestly, let's make this easy since we spent so much time on everything else. And then we're just gonna take this bunch and bleed it over. Okay, and then from here, what we could do is, remember, if it works up here, it works down here. We could take this, and remember, we can't do this, right? Because this doesn't work. So we skip this, and then we use our octave method. We pull this up, and then from here, we can go a whole step. Okay, I think I was saying whole tone earlier. I don't know. I get mixed up, but you get what I mean. And this stuff, we can, I don't know where we put this, but. Okay, and then let's take this, do an octave method again, pull it up. Okay, and then let's shift D it, and let's do like a little, let's split it up like this. Okay, and you can have this, you can take this further. I'm just trying to get it across. Let's do a whole step and then our little half step like that. Okay, so now we need some other notes over here. So let's take this A sharp that we already have and see how this works down here with these notes. So we could go there, or we can come down here, skip this and place it in. See, and let's just copy this over so we can have like a melody with it. I want to make sure everything's in frame for you when this plays. And I kind of want to do something like, let's see. And let's do another one at the end, shorten it up. Okay, so now we got a bass line. So now we can kind of finish a lot of this off, right? And if you want to keep using the method, right, you can, like, we can pull this up an octave, okay, and kind of use this. We can drag some of this other stuff over, and we want to keep the same timings, okay. And then from here, it's pretty easy, right? This is super easy, right? And obviously, if I wasn't like making a video, I would just be doing a lot more other stuff and putting more time into it. Let's copy this over, and then from here, well, actually, let's redo this. Let's start from here. Just make a new one. So whole, actually, yeah, something like that. All right, so we got our patterns in there. And I'm gonna copy this over and pull it down an octave. Okay, see what it sounds like. And that is our melody, okay? So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna just copy this down, and we're just gonna make an outro beat, and I'll just probably fast forward since we spent so much time on our melody and our method, okay? All right, so I'm gonna just copy this down, and then we're just gonna kind of just speed run this real quick, okay? So we're just gonna take our bass, and then I'll just probably speed through this, and so you can just hear like the outro beat. It won't be that crazy, it's just an outro beat for the video. All right, so here's a beat, just some simple stuff here. Just got a little pad. I'll just play by itself. Okay, just a simple beat. I'm just for the outro, just play real quick. Okay, and then remember our patterns. You can copy this if you need to, take a screenshot. That's gonna be it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.